Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting edition of Created to Learn. I am your host, Alec Apey, and my guest on today's show is Pastor Michael Fischer. Can you say hello?
Howdy.
Pastor Mike is currently the senior pastor of Calvary Temple, which is located in Brandon, Manitoba. But prior to that, he planted the church in Alberta, which is the Medicine Hat, and it was kind of funny because I thought it was Banff or Canmore, and so. But
I'd still be there.
Yeah. But he went to Bible college, and if I'm not mistaken, I'll get to that later. But he went to Bible college, which was formerly known as Central Pentecostal College. I believe it's where you met your wife, Amberly.
Yep.
Which is now Horizon College and Seminary. And I don't know, were you a student then during that time?
I was. I was in a preaching class with you.
Okay.
I'm forgettable, so you probably don't remember. So yeah. All of us were, we did the bare minimum. And so it was like, you had your notes typed out and you walked up there and you did your, I like Jesus because, that whole thing. Yeah. But then you get up there and you're like in a suit and you got like the big Bible out and you just like had a revival meeting in front of everyone. It was incredible. I remember funny. That. And I was like, man, I should have tried harder.
That's funny. But we had ended up back at Horizon College again a few years later. Yep. And you were studying for your MA degree, which is where you graduated. Now, was it last year or was it a couple of years ago? It was a couple of years ago.
It was last year. It was
last year.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I think I was probably the year before that, and this was not necessarily through Horizon. This was through Providence.
So
that's right.
Mine as well. So it's a split Horizon Prov MA in Leadership and Management.
Yeah. Well, most of it was done even online because there was a lot of classes like this that we had participated in, but we sat in a couple of classes even at the old campus, which is probably going to get demolished fairly soon.
Yeah,
I haven't been to the new college yet. I've seen pictures, but
we're not allowed to leave Manitoba. If you leave Manitoba right now, you have to quarantine for 14 days.
Yeah.
So I'm not going anywhere.
No. Funny. Well, anyways, Pastor Mike, thank you for coming on board, and I just can't wait to hear a little bit about what you have to say. And so, first of all, I just want to ask you, can you tell us for a few minutes about some of your ministry background? Maybe you want to highlight a little bit about your church plant and where you are now.
Yeah. So my ministry background is kind of spotty and weird. So started right out of college and was doing youth young adult ministry, started a service in southern Saskatchewan, and it blew up. It was awesome. It was such a great experience, but through poor management of ourselves, we burnt out quickly. And then we did 2 years of itinerating and just traveling around North America and the Dominican, and that was great.
Yep.
But then felt a longing to get back into pastoral ministry. So went back into youth, young adult ministry in Medicine Hat.
Mm-hmm.
And then when my senior pastor was on the verge of retiring, we had a long chat and it was like, it's time to plant a church. And so we set out to plant the church that we would want our children to grow up in, like a safe environment that, it's not toxic, it's not abusive, but everyone is open, it's transparent. And so we set out to plant our church, and it was the best experience of my life.
And church planting is kind of one of those risky kind of things that, not everybody can do. And what were some of the things that kind of led up to that? Like, was definitely for most people, it is a sacrifice and it is risky. Like, what are some of the challenges that you face along the way?
I think the biggest challenge and the thing that people don't understand about church planting, because I didn't, was that there's two ways to get started. You could either start a church or plant a church. If you're just going to start a church, you go in and you create the best package you can to steal Christians from other churches and create your critical mass. And that's not church planting.
No.
Church planting is hitting the streets, making friends, and it is a slow, long game.
Yeah.
And that is church planting.
Yeah.
And that was not explained to me from the beginning, because I thought you did both, right?
Yeah.
I thought you did the long game, and you created this package that your non-Christian friends would want to come to, which they did, and that was great. But Christians hated our church. They thought it was terrible.
And it was like I never got a chance to see it, but from what I understand, it was kind of like a storefront kind of building, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So we got a storefront in downtown Medicine Hat, and it was right in the middle of the arts community, and it was like a cross between hipsters and homeless people. It was beautiful.
And that's tough in itself, right? Like the unchurched, right? Has its own challenges on its own. But you're in Brandon now, and Calvary
Brandon.
Temple, right?
Yeah, so very different than church planting. So it's she's
been there
she's
for
an old established church. It's good on its own.
Yeah. And how did that all come about then? It was just like what's the story behind that?
So I was working in Saskatoon at another church.
Right. Yeah, I understand. Neighborhood. You were you were the assistant pastor there, weren't you?
I was the associate, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And it wasn't for me.
No.
Going from church planting to established, and there was lots of things. I was like, man, I can't do this. This is not a fit. So I took time off and decided I was just going to finish out my master's and sit in my basement in Warman, Saskatchewan, and be happy as a clam.
Right next door. Yeah.
Yep. And the problem with that was we had multiple people come along and say, you should really consider Brandon. I said, I don't want to move to Manitoba. Like, I'm an Albertan. We don't move to Manitoba. Manitoba moves to us. Like, we know better.
Yeah.
And I took 4 people doing this, and like respected people in my life. So finally it was like, oh gosh, made the call. I was like, hey, what are you looking for? It's probably not what I'm going to offer you, but let's have this quick conversation and get it over with. And it just turned out to be an amazing fit.
And it's been how many years now since you've been there? Is it?
It'll be my 1-year anniversary.
Okay.
March 15th.
Okay.
I took over right at the beginning of the pandemic.
Of the COVID, yeah. That's funny. I seem to hear that quite a bit, that I was talking to a pastor prior to this recording that, just when you thought, your things are kind of taken off, because he was talking about the young people were just starting to get on board, and all of a sudden the COVID hits and it kind of just puts things to a halt. And I'm sure that's not just with him. I'm sure everybody, face the same thing.
Well, that famous term that everyone uses about pivoting, right?
Yeah.
I was lucky to inherit a team here. Like, I didn't do the PAOC thing and clear the deck and bring in my own minions. Like, we kept the team. We wanted to see what they were, right? But they were so good at pivoting that we were just quick with it. And, it's strange, but we have seen growth numerically, like new families coming in, people getting baptized, people getting saved. We are seeing the opposite right now of what a lot of my colleagues are seeing in their churches. So I don't know if it's a special grace that God is giving us in this time, but I'm taking it.
Well, it's I think it. Technology has its usage, right? Like even now, like, and then I think a lot of the younger generation are I think could be a very viable tool for, especially now, because you got the devices, you got the technology, and but yet at the same time that despite the technology, there's something about that face-to-face interaction and being together. But yet the technology itself, like Zoom, whatever, video conferencing, does have its play in all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and like everything about it crazy to adapt to it. Like the other night we ran a quiz night and we had like a whole bunch of new families and couples wanting to come and hang out at a quiz night that was on Zoom. It was bizarre.
It's funny because I took my family out to Wendy's a couple nights ago, and I was refilling my drink, and I noticed there was a little poster on the side at the counter, and it says download this app to refill your drink, and it's like, what exactly is that? Like how do you start to start pouring your drink using the
Did you
using
do
the
it? Did you
I didn't
download
do
it?
it. I probably should have done it just to see how it worked, but maybe I'll go back there and try it out somehow. It's just amazing,
Weird.
funny where we got to now. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like contactless pouring is what they called it. So
Wild.
yeah, it's pretty funny. Um, Master Mike, if you could kind of tell us maybe for a few minutes, maybe your journey towards Bible school and maybe some of the reasons why you felt like you needed to go back and obtain your MA degree.
Yeah. So I started out like when we graduated, like you got a diploma and that was good enough to get you started, right?
Yeah.
So I got my diploma and started out, and it was good, but I found a lot of holes in my theology
Hmm.
and a lot of things that I wasn't sure of. And so when pushback would come, it's like I don't know. I don't know how to even figure this out. So I saw holes in that. And so especially youth and young adult pastoring, I knew that I needed to make those upgrades, because there's also that thought that you're going to age out eventually.
Hmm.
And like you're not going to remain cool for all the years. You can't be like a super cool 50-year-old and thinking you understand anything that's happening inside a culture.
Yeah.
So I knew that I needed to progress a little bit, and so I did my BA, and that was good. But then I saw a lot of holes in my leadership,
Hmm.
and watching a lot of seasoned leaders around me being absolutely terrible at leadership. And it's like, we can do better,
Mhm.
and we should do better.
Yep.
So I saw that there was that split MA in leadership and management. And I was like, well, that is where I'm going to start.
Mhm.
So I went to obtain that. And like, I think this was right at the beginning where we started to see the telltale signs that there was something wrong inside of Christian structures. And we're like, it's just exploding right now with like Ravi and Carl and all these different things. It's like, these guys have gone unchecked for years.
Yeah.
And it's because we built them up to this place, and we're like, oh, they're good leaders. But are they good leaders, or were they good managers? Were they good task managers? Like, clearly they weren't good with leading themselves
Yeah.
and pastoring themselves,
Mhm.
And so I saw these things starting back then, and I was like, I don't want to be a statistic. I don't want to be the type of pastor who he did really good for a few years and then burnt out and has this book written about him about what a terrible person he was. So went after the MA in leadership and management and finished it off right at the beginning of this whole COVID thing.
Mhm.
It kind of intersected, and I can say that without having gone through that stuff and the in-depth ripping apart of my management and my leadership, I wouldn't be leading well right now.
No.
I would be in ruins on the floor.
It seems to be becoming more and more common, especially when I look at institutions like Horizon. It seems to be a focus more and more on the idea of leadership, and which is why I felt like this is why you wrote this book on what is it called again?
I
Why?
said, why young leaders are leaving established churches.
Yeah, yeah. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about why you felt like why the title, like why this title?
Okay, so I was in the middle of a very toxic environment, and like it was just bizarre stuff was happening all around me, and a few close friends knew about that. Some other pastors, they like the guys you confide in sometimes, like they pray with you, they help build you up. Those guys.
Yeah.
There was a very, very few that knew what I was going through.
Mm.
And apparently in the city, there was another guy going through the exact same stuff at another church. And he showed up one Sunday and he came over to me and he says, you're Pastor Michael. I'm like, yeah. And his wife leans over and says, we heard you were safe.
Mm.
I was like, what have we become? That they're safe and unsafe pastors, safe and unsafe leaders. Like, we should not even come close to saying we're representing Jesus if our leadership is so toxic that we're destroying the young ones coming up behind us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started doing a study.
And this was all part of your dissertation for your MA degree.
Yeah. So I did a study on why young leaders were leaving established churches and the stuff that was uncovered in conversations, and that we did an anonymous survey as well. It was just heartbreaking.
Yeah. And I understand it has gained the attention of even government organizations, or like I don't know.
I had a conversation with a policy writer in Alberta, and I was shocked that it was even read at that level. But they were seeing how, I talk about some of the transitions that need to happen intergenerationally and understanding how to work with different people.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just in churches. Like it's in our government structures. It's in everything that we just got to do better as leaders, or we're not going to have good quality leaders come up behind us. Because if they take our examples and all of the messes we made, it's just going to be a bad future.
Yeah. I totally agree. And, I certainly would love to have you back on again and maybe talk a little bit more about what you've uncovered and what you've studied on in the aspect of leadership. And maybe you can highlight some key points from your book. And, friends, I just want to give you an opportunity if you want to find out more information about Pastor Mike and his church and in Brandon, Manitoba, you can visit the website at ctbrandon.com. Am I right on that?
You are.
And
also
you can go to
michaelfisher.co.
Yes. And I believe you can they get a copy of the book from that website too?
Yeah, and it's on Amazon.
It's on Amazon.
Stuff. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm pretty sure it's probably available as Kindle and paperback and all that stuff. Okay.
Sure is.
I still have to get my copy, and I probably would prefer a hard copy with sign.
Send me your address.
I will.
It'll be in the mail.
So yeah, I definitely would love to talk more about your book. And friends, I would encourage you, get on Amazon, get on Facebook, get on the website, and is it michaelfisher.co is where you'll find some more information about him, about the book. And I would strongly encourage you to get a copy of it. Maybe give a copy to your pastor. And again, I have to get mine. I would certainly love to get into those pages and discover more. Pastor Mike, thank you so much for coming on board on Created to Learn. And I just once again, I just want to thank you for coming, and would certainly love to have you back again. And
that'd be my pleasure.
Thank you for joining us today, and to be sure to join us back here once again for another exciting episode of Created to Learn. God bless you all.